So I'm Jimmy, and I know this may sound cheesy, but your Atlassian Community journey does start right here, right now. I want to give you a little bit of information about myself. So I am first an Atlassian customer. I work for a company called Article of Networks. They're a cybersecurity company headquartered out of Minnesota, but I work with all of our development teams in Ontario, Canada. I am the Atlassian admin for about 500 engineers, and we are using Jira software, Jira Service Management, and Confluence Cloud Premium. I am also a community leader. I started in July of 2019, and I started primarily as an online leader, so I was contributing in the online community. But more recently, I have been asked to help out in reviving our Waterloo chapter in Ontario, so stay tuned for those events coming soon. And then finally, I am also an Atlassian Certified Expert. I hold 6 active certifications, 1 Pro Skill badge, and that illustrious title of Atlassian Certified Expert.
Go University!
So now I want to just find out a little bit more about all of you that are here today. So if you can, by just a show of hands, how many of you are here, this is your first time attending Team? Cool. And then more importantly, how many of you have not actually interacted with the online community or been to a local ASA group? Cool, okay. And then finally, did anyone who was here attend the community leader panel earlier? Awesome, okay. So in 2019, I was not actually involved in the online community or the community events. I didn't even know they existed. That was my first time attending the summit at the time. And this is actually just a picture of me sitting in the back of the community leader panel that was happening there. So at that time, I heard that this was happening. I wandered over and I wanted to just learn a little bit more about the community. So I sat down. A number of the people that are actually here in the audience, or at least I saw them at certain points, are in that picture. And you know, this was sort of the start of my journey towards becoming where I am today in the community. So outside of just attending that panel, 2019 was the first time I was experienced to the larger Atlassian ecosystem. And the one thing that really connected with me was the willingness of people to share information freely. So coming here, I made the conscious effort that I wasn't just going to sit and hide in the corner like I normally do, but I was actually going to make an effort to get out there, network with people, learn as much as I could, so that I could bring that back to my company and have something that I could teach them. And I remember just sort of sitting down at a table with a couple of guys that were talking about how they were having troubles with assets and, you know, trying to manage computers. And it was Mineville Insight at the time, but one guy just pulled out his laptop, showed the POC. These were just 2 customers interacting with each other, and being able to see people who just, you know, genuinely wanted to help each other. There was no benefit gained from it, but they wanted to just help. I found that really cool and inspiring, and I wanted to learn more. So as you should all know, a lot of the people who are attending an event like this are passionate individuals. I mean, let's be honest, we're here because we really love the Atlassian tools, and we really want to talk with people to help solve our business challenges, and being able to network with people who, you know, also have that same mindset is by far one of the most awesome things. So how do you get involved? How did I get involved? That's a good point. I got involved by just sort of wanting to learn more about this, and I think it was more that I went over to the community booth after sort of watching the panel discussion and learned a little bit about that. From my experiences back at home, I was sort of acting as an army of one. There wasn't really anyone that I could bounce ideas off of, so I felt the online community was that good first spot to have other people that I could chat with, bounce ideas off of, make sure that I'm not insane when I'm thinking about things. So getting started in the online community, I mean, right off the bat, create an account if you haven't already done one. And I know that there are people at the community booth who can help you get set up with that. My recommendation on how I started, set up your preferences. So go and look at the collections that are collections of groups that you're interested in. Start following them. because that way you'll get notifications on the things that you care about. There's also in your preferences the ability to set notifications on certain keywords. So for the time being, I was a build master as well as an Atlassian admin. So I tagged anything Bamboo, anything that had to do with builds, deployments, those sorts of things. So when someone asked a question, even if it wasn't in the Bamboo collection, if it mentioned something about builds, I got notified. And then next, I started just sort of watching questions. I wasn't answering them, I wasn't comfortable enough to answer questions yet, but I just started watching. Looked at the things that I was interested in learning more about and watching how other people were answering them. And then as I learned more about that, I also saw some questions that I may have actually known the answer to, and I sort of shared my information when I knew it. And the response that I got when people sort of were grateful of getting an answer that saved them 2 or 3 days worth of work of trying to find it out because I'd already done that. I really enjoyed that, and that's what kept me doing more of that. And so it was one of those things where I just continued to do more until I was reached out to by the community team to get involved with more, starting with the authors group and publishing articles, and then later joining the community program, the community leaders program itself. So I wanted to point this one out because this one was fun. This was the very first thing that I posted when I got back home. As much as has my leader lodging on it today, it was an I'm new here when I first originally posted it. But the one thing I really loved is if you go into the Welcome Center, introduce yourself, the number of people who sort of come in and start welcoming you was really, really cool. That's, it's very an opening, engaging place to be. I wanted to switch gears and then talk about certifications because we've got both of those here too. So what are certifications? I like to always point out that Rodney Nissen, the Jira guy, has made a very good quote, and that quote is that preparing for certifications is actually going to give you the knowledge you need, but actually writing the certification exam is the rite of passage to the knowledge you gained over the process. So I would say that when you're starting out, learn what you can in the community, answer questions. When you feel comfortable enough that you know the subject matter, consider going and taking a certification exam. And it's a great way to sort of help get that validation that you know what you're talking about. For me, imposter syndrome was definitely a problem I ran into, and I always love bringing this up and just saying if you've ever seen Mike Handenbrook's TED Talk on imposter syndrome, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, go watch it. It's a fantastic watch. It'll teach you a lot about just understanding that you may know more than you think you know, even when you're a little self-conscious about it. So while you're preparing, the exam topic list is by far the most important thing to look at. And the reason for that is that it's going to show you the weights and categories for each of the various topics. So if you go and look at that and see the list of things, so it's going to talk about for project administration, workflow management, and permissions, and things like that, and you're going to have a weighted category where maybe 35% of the exam is on actual workflows. If you think you know workflows really well, maybe you should actually consider trying it. If you don't, you know what things you need to study so that you can actually have a good chance of passing the exam. And the last thing I would always remind you on that is that the first one is going to be the hardest one you write. And that's just because it takes a little bit of time to get used to the language that Atlassian uses and the way the certification exam questions are asked. I'm not saying that they're designed to trick you, but once you understand the way in which questions are asked, you have a much better idea of how to manage preparing for those in the future. So, on that same note, just a few things that I've learned. At the same time, if you are looking to learn more about how to prepare, I do have a YouTube channel, Jimmy Talks Jira. I have actually covered most of the exams today that you need for that certification expert, where I just sort of give you a walkthrough of the things that you should do to prepare for that, and tailored a little bit for each one of those exams. So, how has this changed my career? As I mentioned, I was working as an army of one. So when I came back, I learned a whole bunch of things. I was the Atlassian admin portion of things was part of my job. It wasn't my full job. so I had a lot of things on my plate, and the pandemic really showed me just how unsustainable that role was, and it was one of those things where I started looking for other things. I'm going to jump down to the last one and just say, running with the pack. I work for Arctic Wolf now. We very much embrace that wolf pack culture, and it was one of those things where when I came on the market, even though they didn't have an active position open, I knew a lot of the people that were there, and they wanted to do an interview, even though they didn't actually have a position, because they saw my activity in the Atlassian community, they saw the certifications I had, and they knew that for meeting someone that had some Jira expertise to help them, they didn't want to run the risk of losing me to somewhere else. What I will say is community opportunities. Since I have gotten involved, one of the first things I did was writing about our Atlassian cloud migration journey at my previous company. And that kind of exploded into being published on the Work Life blog, speaking opportunities in Toronto, and just a bit more name recognition in the Atlassian ecosystem. And from there, that sort of opened up more opportunities. As some of the others have alluded, joining the community leader program has also given me a number of opportunities to either speak, much like I have today, or to just get involved in more things to help out the ecosystem. So I just wanted to throw this out as the last thing, bringing it all back to that impossible alone, possible together. Working at Arctic Wolf, they have very much been embracing that culture from the get-go. If you see any of our HR recruiting posts on LinkedIn, you will see the hashtag Run With The Pack. The Stronger Together is sort of our hashtag that we run with on a regular basis. You will see people supporting each other and cheerleading each other. Doesn't matter what department you're from. I was recently named, Creator of the Month, and if you look at the various people that are on there, a number of those are Arctic Wolf employees that have nothing to do with the Atlassian tools, but they know that I work there and they just want to support that, and I think that's amazing. And with that, thank you for letting me share a little bit about my journey, and I hope you have a good rest of the day.
Yeah!